What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to talk about the 2026 WWE Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Pay-Per-Viewpoint, that's the whole point, you know what I mean? We are going to be running down what happened in these four matches, what I think is going to be happening in the future based off of these, whether I liked it, whether I didn't like it, anything along those lines. And of course, I want you guys to do the same thing in the comments below or wherever it is that you're listening to us. So chime in with your thoughts, whether you agree with me, you disagree with me, where do you think it's going in the future? Are you yay, nay on the winners? I'm a little, to be honest, anything like along those lines. You take advantage of the super chats we got going. If you're alive, you're after the fact, of course, click on the thanks button if you want to help out a little bit, hype the video, like the video, share, subscribe, ring that notification bell, do all that kind of stuff. If you don't know about all of our other things going on, I'll here and there I'll pitch some stuff and remind everybody about the Discord and stuff. But I think we should probably just get kind of straight into it. So thank you for tuning in, and of course we are going to be talking about the men's and the women's Royal Rumbles, the AJ Styles retirement match, and the WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn. Out of everything, in a general sense, if you're going into this, but what is Tony's point of view about this pay-per-view? I think it's in a bubble. It's a good pay-per-view, but it's also, if I say something negative, I know everybody's going to run this down and be like, "Oh my God, you hate everything," because I know that people do that. So it's if I praised it to high moons and said that there was some negatives, that people would end up being like that anyway. I think that there are some major problems that are shown in the way that this whole event was shown. And that, of course, that doesn't excuse. It doesn't include all the things that I perpetually will complain about when it comes to pay-per-views. One of them being, the overuse of the advertisements, all the filler content. Why did we need 2 hours worth of pre-show? I don't like the politics that goes involved in WWE. I don't like the politics of Saudi Arabia, that kind of stuff. We can talk about that until the end of time. You know where I stand on that. If you're brand new, it's pretty obvious where I stand if you listen to this podcast. So ignoring that, though, there are just fundamental booking decisions that they made on this that I don't understand. And some of them are pretty big and some of them are pretty small. And I know that the small ones are the types of things that people will bitch and complain about and say that oh, you're nitpicking and whatever, and you're impossible to please. Whereas the big ones, a lot of people, I think, are going to be in that camp of, as simple as this is, and, it's stupid to say this, but it has to be said. Just because you like something or you dislike something doesn't mean that it is a fact. And that applies to my opinions as well. I am going to voice my opinions, and I'm also going to voice some actual facts. Don't cross the two together and think I'm saying one is the other. You know what I mean? So in a lot of cases with the big things, it does sort of boil down to, if you like the outcome, you will excuse everything that goes along with it. If you dislike the outcome, you will find every excuse to dislike it. So I am of a sort of mixed bag when it comes to some of the results that happened here. And I see, both sides of the spectrum. So I'm going to point out both sides of the spectrum, which is going to make everybody, both sides think that I'm stupid and crazy, because that always happens. But let's start off with the actual first thing. Outside of the pre-show, it's, bunch of nothing, whatever. So you don't have to worry about that. I should probably just acknowledge the fact that we do have our live chat and stuff like that. I see Peter's hopping up into the chat. What's going on, Peter? What did WWE having dark matches? Did they have a dark match? Wyatt 6 and beat the MFTs, New Day, Shinsuke Nakamura, Motor City Machine Guns? Huh. I didn't know that they did that. I didn't see anything that reported about that. So that excuses, I guess, some of the people that were missing on this. I kind of thought that they would maybe include Shinsuke Nakamura, but I shouldn't be too shocked. There are some surprises that happened in here, though. For anybody that's curious too, as far as the Royal Rumble predictions contest is concerned, Haven't run down all the numbers yet. We don't have the numbers for the time of certain people or, I just haven't crunched the numbers for the men's. I didn't want to take forever to get this podcast started. So stay tuned. I'm going to do that after I get done the podcast and, when the numbers actually finally come out. So mid tomorrow, I would assume at the very latest, for all the information. The statistics page is as up to date as I could get it right now. So got that out of the way. I got a couple people correctly right. I got a couple of people completely wrong, and is what it is. But the first match of the night, Women's Royal Rumble. So I got to actually bring up my list of everything that happened here. I don't think it's really necessarily for me to go through each and every entry and each and every elimination, but I'm going to kind of give a quick rundown of that. Important things at the very least. So they started off Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. It's a little different than what I was anticipating. I was thinking that they were going to start off with Io and Asuka, but I also had thought that they were going to do Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes for the men's thing, so they kind of applied that to the women's thing instead. And I understand why they did it. They wanted to tell that story of Flair and Bliss are perpetually not friends, and they are friends until it becomes an issue where one of them, primarily Flair, wants to just make everything about herself. So they are at least keeping the character consistent that Flair is a bitch and she is really only out for herself, and even somebody that is as much of a heel as Alexa Bliss has been can't turn her into a full-blown babyface. But I still do kind of wonder, why bother to constantly have them have that kind of tension? Is that the only thing that they think is interesting about them? Or do they think that it's boring if they don't fight all the time? It's a WWE rule in a lot of ways that when you pair up a tag team, either it's we don't have anything for either of these two, or it's we want to see them break up. So they are just spinning the wheels when it comes to the breakup for them. Not that I think that they should break them up already. I think that should happen at least post-Mania, because I do think Flair and Bliss are sort of tied into the women's tag team division. And it's, if you want to get both in the card, you got to get them in the tag division instead, because they're not going to be fighting for the world titles or anything. Jay in the chat says, I think Austin Theory is working for Seth Rollins. He's been sent by Seth to take out Braun Breaker. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So it's Flair and Bliss starting off, and Kiana James is number 3. And I was like, I'm annoyed because I put Julia at number 3. Nia Jax comes out after that. Ivy Nile, Lola Vice, Candice LeRae, Jordan Grace. Then this is where something actually starts happening. Jordan Grace eliminates Lola Vice and Candice LeRae. She takes out Ivy Nile, and then Flair takes out Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. It's kind of the whole accidentally took out Bliss, but that's going to continue to tell that whole tension story and whatever. So I was a little bit surprised that Nia was eliminated already, but going with what they did later on with Lash Legend, now I kind of understand that they needed to push Nia out of the way so that it's more it's like Legend has a chance to be the big powerhouse of this. And Becky Lynch follows. So, you eliminate a bunch of people, you bring in a big name like Becky. Sol Rucker comes in after that. Roxanne Perez, Maxine Dupree. Natalya comes out, and she is now being referred to as just Natty. I had said this on my my article about the Raw coverage this past week or the week before or whatever, of Natty's whole going to reinvent herself for the 50th time thing or whatever. This doesn't give me any real hope that this is anything all that different, although they did have her do a little bit of something, and it's not unseen that Maxine Dupree gets eliminated by Becky Lynch, and then Becky gets eliminated by Natty. So getting the opportunity to eliminate somebody like Becky Lynch means that Natty has a little bit more momentum right now than I thought that she would, but I also think it's something that they're not really going to follow up on. Prove me wrong, and it could happen. I will be fully willing to admit that I'm wrong if that ends up being the case, but I think that this is one of those give an inch and expect a mile kind of things. We're going to come back to the idea of if you want something to get over, you have to give it a chance. Especially with two things in the men's division. So Natty gets eliminated, or Natty eliminates Becky Lynch, I should say. Liv Morgan comes out next, number 14. Lash Legend follows. Jordynne Grace gets tossed out by Lash Legend. So by the midpoint to toss out Jordynne Grace makes me feel like they probably don't necessarily plan on pushing Grace as like the top of the food chain anytime soon. They want her to be a focal point, but not the focal point. So I do think that we're getting Jordynne Grace against Jade Cargill, but I think that we're getting it at like either if Jade defends the title in the Elimination Chamber, or if it's, Jade against Jordan at Elimination Chamber, and then the championship is decided, the title match for Mania is decided when it comes to the Elimination Chamber itself or something. I don't know. It's going to really kind of depend on, I guess, what Bianca Belair is up to. No Bianca in this. So once again, she is just still dealing with that missing, she didn't lose her finger, that whole finger injury and missing in action, kind of combining my two sentences together there. I do expect what Peter's saying, Becky versus Maxine versus Natalya at some point coming up soon. Probably on an episode of Raw, I would assume. Most likely not at Elimination Chamber. Could be a chamber though. I don't know how many matches they plan on doing there, but I was assuming that it was just going to be the 2 chamber matches, and then, at most 3 other matches, and then, which 3 do you go? Do you go like a Cody and Drew and Jacob, or you go like a Punk versus somebody, or you know what I mean? Like, I think it's probably just happening on Raw. Where did I lose track of? So Jordynne Grace gets eliminated, but at least she gets eliminated by Lash Legend, so it's a positive thing on that front. Zelina Vega comes out next. Raquel Rodriguez is out next. She tosses out Kiana James, which I was a little bit shocked that, Kiana wasn't there when Julia was there, but I guess they just didn't have anything for the two of them to do together. So Chelsea Green comes out next, and by that point, I thought it was a pretty good showing for Kiana James. She's never really had much of an opportunity to showcase anything, so now they gave her a little bit of a spotlight. She didn't really do anything, but she still did more than she normally does, so that's positive. Chelsea Green comes out with Alba Fire, and Alba Fire is not in the match, so I had already known that I had gotten my shortest time taken out of the mix, because even though she got like fake eliminated multiple times and probably would have been the shortest time, it still doesn't count, I don't know for sure who is the shortest time. Last time I had checked, there wasn't any like official ruling on anything like that. Let me see if maybe even Wikipedia has. Nah, Wikipedia doesn't have any of the times yet. So again, we're gonna have to see how that all plays out. But I think it was either Candice or Kyrie. Again, we'll see. So Chelsea Green's out, Julia's out, Io Sky, Asuka, and I'm like, the Io and Asuka thing. I knew that it was going to be Io followed by Asuka. I just thought it would be number 1 and number 2. Rhea Ripley comes out next. Zelina Vega gets tossed out by Julia. Chelsea Green gets eliminated by Rhea. Roxanne gets tossed out by Rhea. Bayley's out. JC Jane is out. Natty gets tossed out by Liv. Curious why they went with that. Could have been a babyface. Nikki Bella comes out next at number 25. Lyra Valkyria after that. Julia gets taken out by Lyra Valkyria. Kind of makes sense. They're both in that range of that mid-card title. Kalani Jordan is out next. So I did not have Kalani Jordan on my list, but then again, I had Alba Fire, so I guess that makes a little bit of sense. Kairi Sane comes out next, and her whole thing about I'm going to do whatever I can to keep Asuka in the match and for her to win. She ends up accidentally eliminating Asuka, and she does so when somebody, oh my god, I'm blanking on who it was now. Somebody moved out of the way. Was it Stratton? No, it wouldn't have been Stratton. She wasn't out yet. I don't remember. Somebody moved out of the way. And, Kyrie gets yelled at after that. Kyrie gets eliminated after that, too, by Io Sky. So it must have been Io, now I'm thinking about it. Io coming out there dressed up as a marshmallow peep. The outfits, by the way, some of them were, for what they were, the outfits I thought were pretty cool, but at the same time, I thought some of them were really like phoning it in, and I don't blame them if they didn't want to spend a whole lot of money for it. I don't think that they should have to wear this to begin with, and I think that WWE should have at least paid for them to, if you're going to send these people over to another country and this is going to be a thing like that, it's kind of like buying a uniform. I think that the company should pay for it. So, Kyrie's eliminated, taken out by Io. And I guess, biggest surprise of the whole thing. Brie Bella comes out 29, and Tiffany Stratton follows that. So real quick rundown of the other things that happened on here. Lyra tossed out by Brie, Bailey tossed out by Nikki, and like a double, head scissor flip over the top. Charlotte gets taken out by, or no, I'm skipping a little bit here. Kalani Jordan, Kalani Jordan was eliminated by JC Jane. JC Jane eliminated by Sol Ruka. Got to do that whole back and forth thing. Bella Twins both taken out by Lash Legend. Charlotte Flair eliminated by Lash Legend. Lash takes out Io as well. Then Lash gets taken out by Rhea. So good showing for Lash Legend. I think that they did a good job of like making her seem like she's the powerhouse here. And getting eliminated by Rhea. Rhea is one of the bigger women that's on the roster, and she's, a multi-time world champion and everything like that. So it's a good showing for Lash Legend. She's probably the standout of this Royal Rumble, I think. And, I'm down for that. Rhea Ripley then got taken out by Raquel. Raquel then got eliminated by Liv. So there's your typical, tag team partner eliminate somebody. Again, happening. Sol Ruka and Tiffany Stratton and Liv Morgan in the final 3 then. Sol gets taken out by Stratton, and then Stratton by Morgan. So Liv Morgan wins, which I am both happy about and annoyed about. I'm happy that Liv Morgan gets to say she won a Royal Rumble. And I think that she is justified in winning a Royal Rumble. I just don't think that Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer, with the way that they have set this up, is as good as you can get. And I know that a lot of people have a different approach when it comes to Mania. Some people are like, it's just a show and it doesn't matter. I always have the point of view of you should put the biggest and best matches you could possibly put on. Like, you should come out of Mania going, I don't know where they can go for SummerSlam. And then you should, your responsibility as a writer is you should figure out where you want to go for SummerSlam, and then you should put in the effort for that. I don't think that WrestleMania should be a show of this is good enough. And I do think that Liv Morgan versus I'm assuming Stephanie Vaquer, the likelihood that Liv Morgan's going to challenge Jade Cargill is very, 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 very slim. I'm a fan of Stephanie. I'm a fan of Liv Morgan, but I don't think that this has been set up well. I think that this is just going to be a case of something that they've done many, many times in the past, where they forget how many shows and how much time they really have to kill. Because Stephanie's already been feuding with the Judgment Day. She's already had a whole lot of crossover with Raquel. Do you really want to see Raquel gets the title shot again, and she's mad at Liv because of the elimination or whatever, and then Liv ends up just sort of hanging around as Stephanie fights Roxanne again and Raquel again, and then a tag match against the 2 of them, and then a tag match against the 3 of them, and then somebody else starts becoming a friend of Stephanie, so then the 2 people that are friends with her and fight the 3 of them, and the 6 women tag just become, okay, well, now it's Liv beating those 2 people. And it's just 6 names just repeating and repeating for 3 more months? I don't think I want to see that. Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer is something that is on paper a match that some people are obviously going to care about more than others, and some people are going to think is like the biggest, most important thing in the world because they're like, Liv Morgan stands or something. And then other people are going to say, okay, well, that's nothing. I don't care. I'm not in the I don't care branch. I think that Vaquer is great. I think that Morgan is great. I do think that this does not scream WrestleMania to me, and it certainly doesn't scream WrestleMania main event. And I think every match should try to get to not WrestleMania main event level, but it should be like you can either steal the show, or it is like it's the best United States title match you could get for the women's division, or it's the best tag team championship match that you can get out of the division, or whatever it might be. This, I don't think, is the best possible case scenario for the women's world championship. And again, they can prove me wrong. They've got 3 months to prove me wrong, but they also don't have 3 months worth of 2.5 months of me being exactly right, and then 2 weeks worth of good stuff, and then be like, okay, but it was a great build, because they've done that a million times before, and they're probably going to do it again, either with this one or with the other one that's happening. But they do have a track record of doing shit like they did with Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, where it ends up being wait until Mania. February and March don't count. You should basically just check out. And I don't want to be in that kind of position, because I have to watch all these episodes, and I want to enjoy these episodes because I'm a fan that wants to enjoy the show. So they need to, it's a boy who cried wolf thing. Prove me wrong. Make the feud between Stephanie Vaquer and Liv Morgan interesting enough. And then I will look back on this and I will go, okay, I was wrong. Otherwise, I think we're in for 3 months worth of Stephanie is fighting the same 3 members of the Judgment Day. She has 2 friends that she has by her side who lose to Liv. And that's ultimately just where we go. And it's probably going to be Io and Rhea. And it's just going to be the 3 of them over and over again. So, as far as the match quality itself of the Royal Rumble, I'm not particularly disappointed in it, but I do think that this is one of those Royal Rumbles that nothing interesting enough happened in it. And like the Brie return is not like, oh my God, one of the best returns that's ever happened or anything like that. So it strikes me as a very forgettable Royal Rumble. And I think that the only reason why people might not forget it in the future is because it's in Saudi and everybody's wearing those outfits. So again, I could be wrong. Maybe this is going to age very, very well, but I'm going to put my stamp in at 6:35 p.m. on January 31st, 2026. I anticipate this is one of those Royal Rumbles that people in 5 months won't be able to tell you any information about, except for Brie returned, Liv won, and maybe they'll remember that Lash had a really good showing. Maybe that's it. I don't think that 5 months from now, people are going to be able to tell you what the Final Four was. So, following that was AJ Styles against Gunther. And as it felt like it was going to go after, just all the other information that's come out about that, AJ Styles loses. So he is quote unquote retired. He did a thing, though, where after the match where he didn't put his gloves down, he decided to put them back on, and then he did his, AJ Styles pose and whatever. So I don't know if that's an indication of what we were talking about on the hot tags, where maybe he is just going to go to TNA or to AEW and he's just going to wrestle there, and this is like the end of his WWE career. Or if he is just, I didn't want to put my stuff in the ring because I just didn't want to do that or whatever. Good match, though. As I said before, I'm disappointed if AJ Styles doesn't continue to wrestle. And there are still people in WWE that I wanted to see him wrestle, so that sucks if he doesn't. But I don't anticipate Styles is wrestling anymore in WWE. So at least Gunther's the guy that beats him, and that continues the career killer thing. Although I don't know where they're going with that. And based off of something else that happened later on, I'm a little bit worried that they're not necessarily planning on something any particularly great at WrestleMania for him. So, good match. Sucks that Styles is gone, but at least it was a good match to go out on. Doesn't get the fanfare of John Cena, that's for sure. As far as the Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn match for the Undisputed WWE Championship, that was another good match too. Sami put on a good enough show of being a contender. Drew put a good enough show about being a heel. It's really sort of bog standard kind of stuff. Like, everybody with a brain, I should say, would know that Sami Zayn wasn't going to be walking out of here with a championship and all that. Crazier things have happened, sure. We're all caught off guard every once in a while, but I do think that it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. And for them to go out there and have the match that they put on and stuff, there were a couple of moments where Sami Zayn was getting a little bit more heat that I thought that, maybe there was a chance that maybe he would get there, but it really only got up to maybe a 10% chance. But they did a good enough job. Not every match is a title change. So Sami's a good enough contender for that spot. The crowd's into it. Match is good. Drew beats him, gets some heat. I see nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Um, it seems like I'm just skipping through that already, but yeah, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the men's Royal Rumble, so we got to talk about that next. So let me get that up on my screen a little bit here too. Frankie in the chat popping up here. Can't stay for too long, but just want to say, man, I don't want Roman as champion. Roman versus Oba versus Brock. I mean, it seems good for Liv. Very what deserved. And damn, when it's going to be Sami's time. Peter saying the crowd was dead for most of Sami and Drew. But the crowd was dead for some different moments here for sure. And, you know, it always sucks when somebody comes out for a Royal Rumble or any kind of show or whatever and the crowd is dead. So, men's Royal Rumble. Yesterday on SmackDown, and we talked about this on the hot tags, they had inadvertently put up a graphic that said Braun Breaker was number 1 in the Royal Rumble. And I assume that they switched this to number 2 because of that, but maybe it was just a weird coincidence or something. I don't know. But entry number 1's Obafemi. Entry number 2 is Braun Breaker. And as Braun Breaker is coming out, he gets attacked by a hooded person doing the same thing as what happened before, where Austin Theory was kind of pretending that it was Seth Rollins. This time, of course, it's against Braun Breaker. Same moves, the stomp and everything. So the implication is that it's Seth Rollins, but I am assuming that the reason why they didn't go with unmasking him is because it probably wasn't Seth Rollins. And they are just doing the thing of like, we want it to seem like that's Seth, but he's not ready to, you know, to do anything like that. And he'll probably be ready for WrestleMania and all. I don't like it. For a couple of reasons. And this is partially assumptions and partially just fact. This is where I get into like some opinion things and some other things like that. I'm really annoyed and tired of them doing this thing with Braun Breaker where they want Braun Breaker to be, quote, the future, and they put him in a position to be in that spot. Yet they don't want to actually pull the trigger on him. And they think, and it's very clear that they think this, they think that if they keep him away from particular losses, that he's going to be protected. Yet they also put him in positions where he has to lose. And then they tend not to do anything that can offset that to go along with the same picture of them doing the protection things. For example, why is Braun Breaker not in the John Cena tournament? According to the reports, which may or may not be true, got to take it with a grain of salt, but according to the reports, they didn't want Braun Breaker to be in the John Cena tournament because they didn't want him to lose in the John Cena tournament and have a loss. Okay. Probably could have figured out a way around that, but I understand avoiding something in the sense of, it's going to sound really mean. I understand if you're not a good enough writer to figure out a way around something, then you avoid it. You know, how does this character not just use their cell phone for the entire movie? Oh, well, the cell phone is going to get broken, so they can't use it. There you go. That's your excuse for it. Why is Braun Breaker not in this tournament? We don't want him to lose. Okay, well then, is there a reason why you can make him not in the tournament? Yeah, but I'd have to think about that. And instead, I'm just not going to have him in there. That kind of stuff is what bothers me. What bothers me that they didn't need to have Braun Breaker win a number 1 contender spot or do anything to get a title match against CM Punk for him to lose clean to CM Punk. He could have lost in any other way, or you could have avoided that. And if you avoided that, then you're in a spot where Braun Breaker still is hopped up on this energy of like, if I get a title match, I'm going to win and all that. And then you assume that when he gets the title match, he's going to win that. And then, you know, pulling this out of like thin air here, it's, you know, maybe he wins and maybe you actually anoint him the future. But they are obsessed with this idea that you have to lose a certain amount of times until you win for whatever reason it is. I don't know if this is Triple H or if this is Shawn Michaels or if it's both of them or if it's somebody else, but they are obsessed with this idea. And it's really hurting their booking. Braun Breaker starting off the Royal Rumble as an immediate elimination, effectively having the shortest time in the Royal Rumble, makes him look like shit. And it doesn't transfer enough of the heat over to Seth Rollins to be like, yeah, okay, it was a problem of Seth Rollins doing that, and Braun Breaker's still the badass and all this other kind of stuff, because he didn't even have any time to do anything else. So this implies that Seth Rollins doing 2 moves to this guy is just, that's it. Braun Breaker's, worthless at that front. There are people that are like Nunzio that have gotten beaten up worse during their entrance and then stayed longer than Braun Breaker did. You're not supposed to pay attention to that because you're supposed to just be a good little fan and just go along with every single narrative that they put out there. If they say this person's the fastest person on the roster, even if somebody else runs miles around them, you're supposed to just go, oh, they're the fastest, subservient type of, that's the mentality of this kind of point of view. These people, it's always like, you should listen to whatever I say and not as I do, that kind of a thing. Fuck MAGA. But the Braun Breaker thing, I didn't like that. I did like the focal point of Obafemi though. So Solo Sikoa comes out number 3, one of my dead-on picks. Mysterio comes out after that. Ray, I should say, no Dom in this one. Disappointed in that. My son Dom. Rusev comes out next after that, and Obafemi takes out Rusev, takes out Solo Sikoa, takes out Ray Mysterio, and Matt Cardona comes out next. And I'm like, all right, entry number 6 is Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona is eliminated by Obafemi. I just started typing it out immediately. So he was eliminated by Obafemi. Damian Priest comes out next, and he is a very good option, I think, of being the guy that stops the person who's going on a tear. Priest is one of the taller guys on the roster. He's a former world champion. So to me, great example of giving something. It's not much, but it's something to Priest. And I like that Javon Evans came out after that. Javon starts bouncing around, very nervous that he was going to eliminate himself by accident here and there. But, the boy's bouncy. Mr. Iguana then comes out next. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, I didn't have Mr. Iguana on my list, so somebody's getting taken off of that. Now, I had R-Truth on there. I had Kit Wilson on there. We're going to talk about him and all. And a couple other people. And I was kind of looking at the list and going, okay, who might they sacrifice to put him in there? But I like Mr. Iguana to an extent. And, the crowd couldn't have given the slightest shit whatsoever. It seems like they either don't know who he is or they just don't care. But then again, they're also, they've been guilty in the past of cheering only people that are from like the Attitude Era and stuff too. So Mr. Iguana is out. Number 9. Number 10 is Trick Williams. Iguana is eliminated by Trick, who also throws out Layeska. So 2 eliminations there, whatever. Entry number 11, it's Cody Rhodes, and entry number 12 is El Grande Americano. And then entry number 13 is El Grande Americano. And the setup here is the first one's Ludwig Kaiser, the one that's been El Grande Americano for a while. Second one's Chad Gable, and they were referring to him as original El Grande Americano. So I guess that by default makes the Ludwig Kaiser El Grande Americano extra crispy, if Chad Gable's original. A KFC joke. Why am I going with a KFC joke? So Kaiser Americano, Americano 2.0, whatever, I don't know, whatever they're going to end up calling him. Kaiser gets eliminated by Gable, and then Gable gets knocked out by Trick. This was one of those eliminations that, this is one of the problems that I had with this show. There were some eliminations that felt either like they were timed wrong, or that, I don't know if I would have even put that on paper the way that they had done it. But this was one that like it came off a little bit weird, and like the camera angles and stuff, they sort of just like they jolted right away from that. So I was like, wait, did he just get eliminated? Did he get eliminated by Trick, or did he jump over the top? Or like, it's just like partially that's me, doing my own thing. I've got 3 screens that I'm going back and forth and multiple tabs on each screen and all like that. So if I was just deadlocked, I'm sure I would have noticed it better. But it was just sort of like, here's something that happens, and we're going to cut away immediately and not show you what happens afterward. That was annoying. Trick then gets eliminated by Cody, and I thought that was a disappointment. Trick should have had a better showing, I think. He gets only the elimination of El Grande Americano. That sucks. So Powerhouse Hobbs comes out next, and he comes out with a graphic that says Powerhouse Hobbs and then changes to Royce Keys. So that is their bare minimum effort of being like, let's get the pop of Powerhouse Hobbs. Easier for me to say. And then switch it to Royce Keys so that way we can just call him Royce Keys from now on. You know it's Powerhouse Hobbs, but we're going to call him Royce Keys. We're not going to do a promo, I'm assuming, afterward, and we're not going to excuse it. It's just going to be, he is Royce Keys. I don't like the name. I like the Powerhouse Hobbs name better, but if he likes it, it's good for him. Whatever. So I was a little bit surprised to an extent that Hobbs did. I'm going to call him Hobbs for the longest time. Same as how it's like Ricky Starks for me. Blake Monroe, I've gotten a little bit used to. Lexus King, I've gotten used to, but it's going to be a while for me to get used to Royce Keys. Keys had a pretty good showing here. I was a little bit surprised that he was in there because I thought that they wouldn't be able to balance out giving him a push and giving people like Obafemi and Trick and Roman and Randy and like all these big names. Cody's got to go eliminate people. Fatu's got to do something. Like there's a lot of people to juggle in this. And of course, I didn't anticipate that they would just completely take Braun Breaker out of the mix and stuff. So, Royce Keys gets to have a pretty solid elimination. He takes out Damian Priest. So maybe that's a future feud. I don't know. Maybe he's going to go straight to SmackDown. Good showing enough for Keys, though. He lasts a little while. Entry number 15 is Austin Theory. Number 16 is Bronson Reed. Then you got Ilya Dragunov at number 17. And then La Parka comes out at 18. And that's where I'm really thinking to myself, wait a minute. All right, we got Mr. Iguana in here. Isn't that the AAA representation that we need? Do we need another one? And I still don't understand why La Parka is in this. There are people that should have been in this match and definitely should have been in here over La Parka. Carmelo Hayes isn't in this Royal Rumble. He's the United States champion. Why was he not in this match? Kit Wilson wasn't in this match, which I am going to keep repeating myself until they change this around. Everybody that keeps saying that I'm being a little bit too weird about this. Kit Wilson's theme gets a massive boost in popularity. He has a chance of getting over with the crowd the way that like Joe Hendry would or something. And every single week, they don't do anything with Kit Wilson. They had the one thing where he hit Zack Ryder from behind, and everything else since then has been backstage segments where you don't have his theme playing, or you just don't involve him. This could have been a spot for Kit Wilson to come out. His theme plays on the way down to the ramp. He does something stupid, silly, whatever it might be. Either he eliminates somebody or he gets eliminated very quickly and complains about the toxic masculinity thing or something. You mean to tell me that La Parka is a better choice to put in here than Kit Wilson or Carmelo Hayes or R-Truth or I don't know. Actually, let's go through the list here. Let's figure out who else on the main roster. Let's go to the handy dandy page on smarkandmoment.com. Who else on the roster that is not currently injured wasn't in this match? So no Akira Tozawa, no Brutus Creed, no Cruz del Toro, which like most of these are like, okay, lower card guys. I understand them not being in there. Dom is injured. Eric and Ivar just missing in action. No Finn Balor in this. No Finn Balor representation at all. So he doesn't go in there. No Grayson Waller, as far as I'm aware. Grayson Waller's not injured. No JD McDonough. I think he is still injured. Joaquin Wilde again, Julius Creed, Kofi Kingston, no, who's the other pro? Sheamus is injured, Ryo and Bravo again. Yeah, I can understand not putting everybody in here. No Aleister Black. You're just acting like he is not available. No Motor City Machine Guns, no Angel Garza or Santos Escobar or Humberto Carrillo, no Axiom, no Nathan Fraser, no members of the Wyatts, none of the other members of the MFTs. You don't have people like Jimmy Uso, which maybe he's dealing with something with like Naomi's pregnancy, so I'll give him, okay. If that was perfectly fine, maybe he would have been in the match. I mentioned R-Truth not in this match. No Montez Ford, no Angelo Dawkins, no surprises from TNA, as Peter put in the chat. No TNA representative, which I would have been looking more so as instead of having both Mr. Iguana and La Parka in here. And La Parka didn't even fucking do anything, so that's pretty pointless too. I would have put a TNA guy in there. I would have put a Joe Hendry in there. I would have put somebody like a, I don't know, put somebody from another person from NXT on there. Put Ricky Saints in there. Put, there's a lot of people in there, but I would have more than anybody either Kit Wilson or Carmelo Hayes. I don't understand why they weren't in this match. So LaPark is in there, Dragon Lee comes in there, Logan Paul gets in there, Royce Keys gets taken out by Bronson Reed, LaPark gets taken out by Austin Theory, completely pointless for LaPark to be in here. Dragon Lee's taken out by Bronson Reed, really barely showed anything, didn't really do anything. Then it's time for LA Knight. LA Knight comes out, makes his return after being MIA for a little while for whatever reason. And LA Knight actually got a pretty good showing. He took out both Austin Theory and then Bronson Reed. So that was, solid enough push on that front. Brock Lesnar comes out at number 22. Miz comes out at number 23 and does a whole I'm not going to do anything with Obafemi and Brock Lesnar right now. So I like that little spot. Dragunov gets taken out by Lesnar. I would have liked to have seen them actually do something more between the two of them. The whole strong style type stuff. And Roman Reigns comes out. I'm jumping ahead there here. Rey Fenix comes out next, and Rey Fenix was another one I didn't have on my list. So again, if you're going to do what you do with Rey Fenix, where he immediately gets eliminated by Brock Lesnar, and so does Obafemi, I don't know if Rey Fenix was the right person to put in there. If you don't like Rey Fenix, why are you putting him in there? And you could put somebody else in a better spot. And why do you have to have him eliminated immediately? So it kind of feels to me like Rey is in a spot where they don't like Phoenix. And they were like, well, we need somebody to sacrifice. So let's just toss him in there. That sucks. Obafemi getting eliminated by Brock Lesnar makes me both happy and disappointed. I was reaching a point where I was like, I really want Obafemi to take out Brock Lesnar. But, getting taken out by Brock Lesnar is like, okay, if you're going to be eliminating Obafemi, there's only a few people that if Roman Reigns would have done it, if Cody would have done it, if Jacob Fatu maybe, Gunther, a handful of names can toss out an Obafemi, and it won't make Femi look bad. Brock is one of them, if not the main one. So are they going to fight at Mania? Kind of seems like it more than Gunther and Brock. So now I'm starting to think that Gunther Brock is the Minnesota thing. It's supposed to be SummerSlam. Maybe that's going to be the end of that. And maybe it's going to be Obafemi versus Brock at Mania. Not opposed to that. Although it's not what I would have booked. That's for sure. That's by proxy of me not booking some of the other things we're going to talk about. Jey Uso is number 25. And this is one of the things that I really didn't like about this Royal Rumble. Jey does the whole, do the theme song again. Let's roll it back. And Brock is just eliminated by Cody and LA Knight during that entrance, very unceremoniously. And, it's not a pro Brock thing. Where I stand on Brock. I don't think that he should be in the company right now. And I think that he is, somebody that you should be worried about when it comes to the lawsuit stuff and all. But I do think that if you were going to make him a focal point and all, probably should have had his elimination not during the thing where everybody else is distracted. Because that's just poor booking, I think. Unless that was their plan, was that we don't want people to pay attention to the fact that he gets eliminated. I don't know. Roman Reigns is next. He tosses out The Miz. And somebody on Twitter, I lost the feed, the tweet at this point. They pointed it out that this has apparently been the fourth time that The Miz has been tossed out by Roman. So that might be the record for the most times that somebody's been eliminated by the same person. Although I would be curious if Stone Cold hasn't done the same to somebody, because Austin for so many Royal Rumbles eliminated a lot of people. So if anybody knows the difference, let me know. And, I'll adjust the statistics accordingly. So Roman tosses out Miz, Jacob Fatu is next, Penta's next. And I'm looking at the things and I'm going, well, but you only have Randy Orton and Gunther left. So there goes all the people that are not in there. LA Knight's tossed out by Cody Rhodes. Probably would have gone with a heel, but okay. And Randy Orton comes out. Gunther comes out. Then we start getting the barrage of the final eliminations. So Javon taken out by Randy. Javon, I'm pretty sure, was the Iron Man for this at 40 minutes. Because Obafemi was 39 or so. Because good showing for Javon. You know, he wasn't going to win, so they made him stick around for a little while. Probably would have been better if he would have gotten at least one elimination, but I think that it's mostly just him sticking around that they wanted to go with. Penta's tossed out by Gunther. Then Cody gets super kicked over the rope from Jacob and then starts to, you know, skin the cat, get his way back up there. And Drew kicks him with a Claymore, knocks him out. So I don't know if they're classifying that as Drew eliminated Cody or if that's technically a Jacob Fatu elimination. But they did say gets eliminated by Drew. And, you know, I'll come back to the statistics when it comes to that. It proves that they are going to have to do a triple threat between these three. Whether that's going to happen at Elimination Chamber and then move on to something else, I don't know. I don't see a road where that's going to be a good option, but Jacob Fatu gets eliminated by Roman Reigns. Jey Uso gets eliminated by Roman Reigns. Logan Paul gets eliminated by Roman Reigns. And Randy gets taken out by Gunther, and Gunther gets taken out by Roman. So Roman Reigns wins the Royal Rumble. And I immediately just think to myself, I don't want to see almost anything that we can do with Roman here. I don't want Roman fighting for the title. I don't want Roman versus Cody. We don't need to see a third match of that. I don't want Roman versus Drew. We've seen it at WrestleMania as well. That's not where the money is. I don't want to see Roman versus CM Punk again. We just saw it last year. Why does Roman have to be in the title match? And if your answer to that is, we don't have any other stars, that's your fucking fault. And it doesn't help the perception of everybody else to continue to then go back to the square one thing with Roman Reigns. Think of it this way. If you say you are a manager of any business, anything at all, and you say, I have one employee that can do all of the things that I need them to do, and everybody else is a total loser and they don't know what they're doing. And when that employee doesn't show up, nothing gets done according to you, and then you just go, well, we need that other employee back or whatever. Is the group of people that you didn't figure out a way to level up any better? No, you are still entirely dependent upon them. So if Roman leaves in May, how are you going to solve the problem of who replaces Roman? You can't do it by not actually giving a push to anybody until Roman is gone, because then that just proves to everybody that you weren't willing to actually go with that person. It's just a backup plan. And that has never worked for anybody. Every single time that somebody has been in a position where they are only put in a position of power or whatever because the other person is gone, looks like they are a second place replacement. I don't know why this is the one example that comes to my mind, but Ember Moon is being set up to be the person that beats Asuka. Asuka does not lose to her. And then, well, we need to crown a new champion. So let's go with Ember Moon. Okay, well, she couldn't beat Asuka. And then what happens afterward? Ember Moon ends up losing to Shayna Baszler. And then she drops the belt to Shayna Baszler. And she never recovers. And then she never ends up actually getting the push that, you know, until she goes to fucking Ring of Honor. So this just screams to me as they don't know what they're doing. And either they think that Roman and Cody is just printed money and it's the easy option and they're being lazy about it, or they don't have any faith in anybody else. And for some reason, they want you to be so invested in these people, but actually not put any effort into that. It's very disappointing. I have no interest in seeing what Roman Reigns does at WrestleMania this year if he's going to be fighting for a championship, because I can't think of any scenario that this is going to be worth it. I am not interested in him disappearing for the next 3 months and then just going, I pick you, or even worse, saying, I pick you, and then disappearing for 3 months. I have no interest in seeing him against either of the champions we have right now, or anybody that I can think of that is actually in the running of any of these championship matches. So if it ends up being Cody, if it ends up being Drew, if it ends up being Sami, if it ends up being Jacob, if it's Punk, why is Roman in there? He's the guy that's the outsider. That doesn't make any sense to any of this. And I think that it would have made way more sense to go with somebody like a Gunther or somebody like, you know, I wouldn't be in this position to book this, but like maybe you do go with Jacob Fatu, and then maybe that's how it becomes a triple threat. And maybe you go with Cody and that's how it becomes the 3-time person or whatever. I don't know. I don't like it. I could be wrong. You know, even on Monday, maybe they do something on Raw that makes me change my tune, but I just don't think so. I think that we're in for 3 months worth of, well, default back to Roman and a lot of hot air nonsense. So it's hard to be psyched about something when you end the whole thing being like, all right, so everything's back to normal. And, you know, all the goodwill that WWE had built up, it just perpetually gets tossed aside every single time. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I don't think I'm going to be. So in the meantime, if I'm, somebody that you disagree with, or maybe you do agree with me, whatever, leave a comment below. Make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, ring your notification bell for your email alerts of different things. Make sure that you show your support through all the different methods you can see on your screen right now. If you want to pick up some merchandise, Redbubble and TeePublic. If you want to try the Patreon out, patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment. Over on the YouTube side of things, the YouTube channel membership is the same thing as the Patreon, essentially. So you got the Darkcast tier, the Pick a Poison tier, and everything else like that. Chat it up in the Discord channel as well if you're interested in hopping over to that server and having some fun and, being a part of that community. And of course, if you want to check out everything else on Smark Out Moment and on Fanboys Anonymous, then go to anthonymango.com or amangotree.com and you will find the link tree list of all of my different accounts that I have out there for people. Some of them are worth following. Some of them, to be perfectly honest, I don't do anything with. I never do anything on Instagram, for instance. It's really pointless to follow me on Instagram. But if you want to, go ahead. So, as I mentioned before, I don't know what we are going to do for our main event for the next couple weeks for the podcast. It's kind of just up in the air. I don't know about the Darkcast either. So if you have any suggestions of what you want us to do over the course of February, let me know, and we will factor all of that in, try to figure out what we could do. Talking about maybe doing something with the mock draft because we haven't done anything in a little while. Maybe doing something with Mount Rushmore because we haven't done anything with that in a little while. Or the 6 grandfathers thing. That's going to be a new little rule inspired by CM Punk. I don't know. So you let me know. What do you want? And we'll try to figure that out. But yeah, Royal Rumble 2026 in the bag, and we're on the road to WrestleMania, as bumpy as it's going to be. This isn't the worst that we've ever had it, but at the same time, it's far, far, far from great. And we'll be talking about it one way or another. So hopefully you join us for all those discussions in the future. And stay tuned as well to updates on the Fantasy League and the Royal Rumble Predictions Contest and all the statistics and stuff that I'm going to work on a little bit now that, now we're wrapping up this podcast. But, that is what it is. That was this episode. And I want to thank you for joining in. So thank you. And I will see you next time with whatever we end up doing. But adios for now. This has been another Smark Out Moment. And I'm being counted out.